I'm in the woods today because I recently had a very mystical experience in these woods just the other day, and it inspired me to create this ultimate first trip guide for you because, little disclaimer, I'm not a therapist nor a doctor. I don't know if you could tell already, but I'm just a girl, but I'm a girl who has a keen interest in psychedelic therapy due to personal experience and what I've seen them do for others. And I'm here to talk today because I noticed much stigma throughout my entire life, especially here in the US of A. We have a lot of stigma around psychedelics. I can get to the whole history of them if I had the time today. That's for another video. But today we're doing the ultimate first trip guide. I've read like more books than I can count on my hands about therapy. I'm not gonna call it psychedelics anymore so that this video doesn't get banned. I don't know if that will get banned or not, but I'm gonna call it fungi for the rest of the video if we're all good with that, because I like fungus. Oh, if you need a Netflix recommendation, Fantastic Fungi, the movie on Netflix, or the documentary. Oh, you should watch it on anyways, so yeah, when I was in college, there was just so much stigma, or like when I was growing up, every time I heard about fungi, I thought it was like this insane party drug. You should never take it, it'll cause you to go crazy. I heard a story about a college kid like jumping out of a second-story window, dying, RIP, but these so-called bad trips can pretty much entirely be avoided. Like, I think you can avoid it. There are no deaths that ever happened solely due to taking fungi ever reported. So it's a fairly safe drug if you take it safely and do it correctly, and there's a way to do it correctly for therapeutic purposes, which is what I encourage. And that's what I'm going to talk about with y'all today. My first tip for your first time on a trip is to set an intention. Intention with psychedelics is everything. If you respect the drug, it will respect you back, okay? So here's the key. If you enter a trip with the intention to run away from your trauma and run away from the emotions that you face day to day caused by that past trauma, like when we drink, that's usually the intention, is to run away from your problems, to feel a different emotion than our typical anxiety, depression, or whatever, right? When we take cocaine or, you know, any type of drug like that, we do that to run away from our problems, to run away from our feelings. Fungus does not play like that, okay? It's the exact opposite. When you take fungus, it's gonna take your little body and put you right up face to face with your past trauma, okay? That is the point. Imagine like deep down in your subconscious, there's a balloon, and that's the trauma, okay? And every day you surround it with bubble wrap, you surround that balloon, you protect it with pillows and bubble wrap and all this shit, and you try to bury it, band-aid it, you know? What shrooms do is they take a needle and they get right through all that bubble wrap and they pop that balloon, okay? So you do not want to just take this for fun. It's not like for funsies. Like, oh my god, I'm so quirky, like I love psychedelics, oh my god. Like, no. This is for therapy, and you can get a lot out of it if you are aware of that, and if you just go into it with good intentions, with the intention to do internal reflection. So if you are not ready to face that trauma, if you are not ready to face your negative emotions, your negative patterns, behaviors, habits, don't do it then. It's not your time, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. It might not be your time. You might not be ready to face that, and that's perfectly fine. Work on yourself a little bit more and do it when you're ready. And when you feel like you've created a safe enough environment to explore those previous traumas and face them, and when you feel strong enough to do so. All right, so if you think shit's just gonna be cool and you're gonna have a fun little time and you're gonna like, ooh, walls are wavy, ha ha ha, that's cool. Like, you might be able to pull that off depending on your situation, your environment, your emotional state, but I would not advise to just take this stuff lightly. It's not light, and that is exactly how you end up on a bad trip. So if you've ever heard someone talking about, oh, I took that once, it was horrible, like I'll never take it again, that person was not aware of what fungus does to your body and to your consciousness. I sometimes tell people when I'm on shrooms, I feel the most sober I've ever felt in my entire life, especially like my first time. So if you're taking it to get fucked up, just do something, just drink or something, I don't know. Smoke some weed, relax. Okay, I'm rambling. Tip number 2, your environment. I brought you to the woods today to show you a good environment. There is too many people around. It's a Saturday, I live in LA, but I came here on a weekday and I found a really good spot and there was no one around. I set up my little blanket and had a great old time. No one bothered me, no one came up to me, I didn't see any people. That's good. So I would advise nature or in the comfort of your own home. You do not want to go somewhere where it is unfamiliar territory. Maybe you could go like to your friend's house if you've been there before, that would be fine. But ideally just in your bedroom, in your house, with someone who has also been in your bedroom many a times and is familiar with the area. You don't want to choose an unfamiliar place. It will just freak you out. Otherwise, nature, but it needs to be somewhere where, again, there's safety. Like right now I'm in a park. I could go somewhere a little bit more private, there's kind of people around. But I also want to have access to like cell service and, you know, like basic safety precautions, and also a bathroom because you're gonna feel like you have to pee a lot. So, or I mean, shit, you could pee in the woods. That's cool too. But yeah, you don't want to have to hike somewhere far and like be passing out in the sun. You want to be still close to civilization, all right? Or like at least have access to like a first aid kit or something, you know what I mean? Like, because sometimes, you know, shit happens and you might get a cut or something and be freaking out because you don't have a band-aid and you're bleeding out. Like, that could just happen regularly, you know? Just be safe, okay? So ask yourself, would I leave my child in this environment? If you wouldn't leave your child alone in that environment, you probably shouldn't trip there. You want to feel safe. Like, just highly emphasize that. Really pay attention to the environment. It's pretty important. Whenever I meet new people in my life, like say a coworker or just like a new friend or whatever, I constantly ask people, have you ever taken fungi? And if so, what was your experience like? And when people have bad trips, they are always in some ridiculous circumstance. I heard someone say a party bus, Halloween, some sort of like closed room with no windows where you get claustrophobic. A party bus would be awful because you can't get off. Oh my god. Bunch of strangers, like people, even if they're like your friends, it doesn't matter. Like, this needs to be like your best friend or like someone you just really trust, all right? You want to have like 1, 2, maybe 3 people with you max, but these need to be people that you trust. Ideally, you would have 1 trip sitter. This is going into my tip number 3. Tip number 3 is the people you bring with. So let's move on. But you need to have someone you trust. So ideally, it would just be 1, maybe 2 people who have taken fungi before, know what they're doing, have good intentions. There's a few things you could ask them. Ask them about their personal experience, how much they took, because if they only did a little bit just to kind of see what it was like, they're not going to fully understand what you're going through when you're actually doing it. So you want to make sure it's someone who's fully tripped before, who you trust like more than anyone in this entire world, who makes you feel safe, makes you feel comfortable, and just has good intentions, has therapeutic intentions, ideally. Someone who had a good experience before with fungi, and just, ask them about their experience. Make sure you qualify them before you just bring them on a trip. If there's two of you who are gonna do it and neither of you have ever done it before, it could be fine, but like, what if that person freaks out? You don't really know them like that. You don't really know what emotional state they're in, if they're on other drugs, if they're doing this and that, or if they have bad intentions. Like I said earlier, if they are not willing to face their traumas, that person might freak out, which might freak you out. So ideally, you have one trip sitter who has done it before, knows what they're doing, had a good experience with it also, because if they had a bad trip, they obviously don't know what they're doing, so why would you bring them with? And yeah, just be very, very, very cautious about who you bring around. You do not want to be around a bunch of people. You don't want to be in a public area. You don't want to be with people you don't know, who you don't trust fully. But if you can find someone, which I'm sure you can, wait it out, make sure you got someone good, and just bring them, okay? Just trust me. Okay, tip number 4, what to bring. I made a list of things. You do not need to bring every single thing on this list, but if you want to have the most therapeutic moment of your entire life, bring all this stuff. It'll be worth it. I could fit all this stuff. Me and my friend recently, when we came to the woods, we fit all the stuff in, like, I had a giant beach bag. Depends where you're going. If you're at your house, perfect. You probably already have all this stuff at your house. But you want to be prepared, and you want to be nourished as well. You want to be hydrated. You want to be full of healthy, good food, because sometimes on fungus, it's a fungus, it does some funny stuff to your tummy. So make sure before, like last time, I had the greatest meal. I had chia seed pudding with like Greek yogurt for a little protein, and berries, and maybe some granola or some nuts. That was the best breakfast for my trip, because it didn't hurt my stomach. Because sometimes when it's hitting, I feel a little nauseous. It kind of depends on like what you're consuming, I guess, but if you're consuming the raw thing, you might feel a little nauseous on the way as it's digesting in your stomach. So make sure you don't eat something that makes that worse. Like, you're not gonna have a good time because you're gonna be so worried about what's going on in your tummy, and your stomach will bubble and all that. So just eat something that you know for a fact will not hurt your stomach, okay? Or make you nauseous or make you feel any type of rumbling going on, okay? So that covers the food, but what else you want to bring are comfortable loose clothing like this. And I even have some clothes underneath it in case I get hot, okay? This would be great. Like, my outfit currently is really good for a trip, because if you get hot, you can take it off. I don't feel claustrophobic. I don't feel like itchy. None of that. I feel comfortable. You want that. You want to bring something that makes you feel really comfortable, like just your most comfortable sweats, all right? But try to put something under it in case you need a strip for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe you get sweaty or something. I don't know. Next, blankets, pillows, stuffed animals would be great. Things that make you feel comfortable, right? A journal, along with a journal or like a notebook, would be pens, colorful pens, like so you can just color your little heart out. I like to also bring paints, like watercolor. Sometimes that can get a little bit ridiculous if you're like venturing out into the woods. Bringing the water and all that might be too much for you. You don't really want to have responsibilities, okay? You want 0 responsibilities. You want to carve out like at least 6 hours, depending on if you're taking the natural mushroom or something else. But for the mushroom, at least 6 hours of your day. You want like 0 obligations. Like, you do not want to have to work later or have somewhere to be, like an appointment or something. You want no obligations. You want no one contacting you the whole day, all right? And then that leads me to another point. Put your phone on airplane mode, or like on D&D at least. You do not want to be texting using man-made technology. You want to be like natural, all right? So yeah, craft of sorts, maybe that is painting, maybe that is, I don't know, scrapbooking or something, I don't know. Whatever kind of crafts you like to do, you can do that. A big jug of water. You'll find that you are like crying and yawning maybe, and when you yawn, supposedly, I don't know who said this, but supposedly when you yawn, when you're tripping, it means you need to drink more water, which I believe to be true because I've tested that. Headphones or a speaker or both would be great, just in case you want to be private, or like if the other person is playing music that you don't like. An eye mask, a sleeping mask, when they do this in like lab clinical therapy room settings, you have an eye mask, you have a bed, a blanket, you have headphones, you kind of like closed off to the world, which is also great because then you can be really introspective. That's probably how you'd get the most optimal, like down to the root cause of your issues, is when you kind of close off from the world, kind of push the world out for a little bit and go deep within. All right, so eye mask, like a sleeping mask, you know what I mean? Sage, incense, essential oils, stuff like that. Obviously be careful lighting them, but you'll be fine. Any sort of object with textures, like I've tripped around a dog before and I was like loving to pet the dog. Just again, be careful with bringing a dog because you don't want to be obligated to take care of something. This lady's staring at me. Anything else that makes you feel safe, whether that be like a picture, a trinket, just like something, a gift someone gave you once that makes you feel loved, anything like that, anything that makes you feel safe, you bring, okay? You want to be over prepared, not under prepared. You don't want to feel like you forgot something. Okay, tip number 5, I'm going to talk about dosing. So, obviously, first time, kind of scary, don't want to do too much, right? So, 3.5 grams is a good dose, like you're gonna be there, you know? But if it's your first time and you're a little bit scared, or if you happen to be mixing with any sort of like antidepressant or any sort of drug that you're on, I'll talk about drugs in the next tip, like mixing it with anything else, and what you don't want to do. But you know, if you're a little fearful of how it's going to interact, like for example, I'm on Accutane right now, so when I just recently, you know, I took one and then I waited 50 minutes and then I took another and then I waited 30 minutes and then I took another, and that led to my 3-5, you know? Don't think too much about the dosing though. Listen to your body, listen to your intuition, and see what the vibe is for the day. I will say though, I've never regretted taking too much, which sounds crazy, but I have regretted taking too little. I have, because when I go into it, it's like you carve out your whole day, you're ready, you're prepared, you're set, you're like, I am going to transcend right now. And so then when you don't transcend, it's kind of like, oh, that was great, but I didn't really get what I wanted out of it. You want to give yourself the opportunity to go all the way. So I would recommend a 3-5. If you're a little fearful, space it out, okay? That being said, there are different strengths to everything. So, you know, I said take a lot. Be careful, okay? But again, you won't die. As long as you're not mixing it with other drugs. I'll get into that. My favorite story is this fungi connoisseur. His name is Paul Stamets. He has a story. I think he has a documentary too, or maybe it's in Fantastic Fungi. Or I might be getting that mixed up with a different documentary. There's this fungi connoisseur named Paul Stamets. This man, he previously had a stutter so bad that he couldn't look people in the eye, right? Then he took way too much, right? And got caught in a storm at the top of a tree, and when he was up there, he was so scared that all he could say was, "Stop stuttering now, stop stuttering now." You'll have to look up this story because I'm probably telling it bad, but after this trip, his stutter was cured. So I don't know why I'm sharing that, but that's a little on the dosing. Okay, moving on to who should not take this. If you are on high doses of SSRIs or MAOIs, probably not a good idea. If you are really set on taking it, ask your therapist or your doctor or whatever, maybe about taking less, or I don't know. I cannot advise you on that. I'm not a doctor, okay? But it's typically not a good idea to mix those, right? At the same time, fungus can be really, really good, really helpful at curing your anxiety and depression. But if you have really severe anxiety and depression, it's so likely that you're not prepared to be on this yet. Maybe take some time, really, really, really focus in on your mental health, get to a point where you're at a stable emotional place where you feel ready to face this intense journey, okay? If you're in a place where you're facing a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, or if you're somewhere where you don't have a strong emotional support system around you, like you don't have family who you feel really close to, you don't have friends who you feel you can talk to about this, or if you don't know anyone that you can like really share this experience with wholeheartedly, then you probably are not prepared for it. Take time, build those structures, build good emotional habits like meditation, journaling, just reflecting on your emotional state. Make sure you're in a good spot before you go into this, or again, you might have a bad trip, or you just won't be able to handle the intense emotions and trauma that comes up when you take fungus, okay? So make sure you're good, make sure you're chilling. If you have a history personally or in your family, distant family, anyone who has any sort of like psychosis, schizophrenia, or bipolar disorder, not a good idea, especially like schizophrenic. If anyone in your family has symptoms of schizophrenia, please, it's not necessary. Go meditate or like become a monk or something, all right? There's other ways to heal. You can journal, you can go to actual like talk therapy. There's other ways to do this. You don't have to take this drug, okay? It's a bad idea. Do not do that. If you're on like heart meds, or if you have heart problems, it can interact with your heart. Don't take it. Antipsychotics, or if you have cardiovascular issues in your family or yourself, or heart issues, don't take it. If you're prone to seizures, do not take it. If you are pregnant or breastfeeding, don't take it. There's no research on that. Not a good idea, because we don't know. Or if you're actively struggling with an addiction, you don't want to mix hard drugs with this. You don't. You'll hear a lot of people you'll hear a lot of people who smoke weed, marijuana with it. I wouldn't recommend that either for your first time. If you're like super comfortable with that, that's a personal decision, but just don't mix anything with it. Like, come on, it's already such an intense drug. Like, it's not necessary for you to be mixing it with stuff. Or alcohol, like, no, it's not. Do not mix it with alcohol. That again goes back to bad intentions. If you're mixing this with alcohol, you're not doing you're not trying to give yourself therapy. Like, come on. Minors, when you are growing, your brain is growing and adapting, your frontal lobe is not quite there yet, you're already having a psychedelic experience. Like, being a child is already a psychedelic experience in itself. Just wait. You have your whole life to do this, and it's gonna mess with your brain chemistry, and it can really mess you up. And again, when you're a child, you're not ready to face your past traumas. Keep it buried for a little bit longer. You can uncover those traumas when you're older. This is not a thing we do for fun. This is therapy, okay? So if you're under the age of like, your frontal lobe develops fully when you're like 23, so that's how old I am. So yeah, just be careful when you're at least under like 18. Come on now, 21. That's why the alcohol age is 21 because your frontal lobe's not developed, I guess. Okay, tip number 7, set a goal well in advance before your trip. So like a week prior, you can start thinking, is there a permanent problem in my life that just keeps reoccurring constantly and I just have no idea how to solve it? Like, I especially like to pick, because there's things in your life where you might have an issue, but technically you know what to do to solve it. You know the steps you need to take, but you just won't do it. That's a little different. Maybe you could set the goal of figuring out why you won't take the steps, the actions to fix the problem. That could be the goal, but I would recommend thinking of a problem you have that you literally do not know how to fix. This journey will guide you towards the answer. Okay, so you want to find something that's really good. You don't want to waste it, you know. Find something that's causing you a lot of emotional turmoil, causing you anxiety, causing you to feel sad. And we're gonna journal about that for like a week prior to going into this, and we can really get the full benefit of the drug. Some prompts I wrote down for you. This is before, like a few days before, a week before, a month before, if you're planning that far in advance, I guess. You could ask yourself, what inspired me to go on this journey? Do I feel scared to start this journey? If so, why? Am I in a good emotional state? If not, how can I get into one before I start this trip? How can I physically and mentally set myself up for success? And then the day of, after you've ingested it or are preparing to, once you're in the space where you're gonna do it, you know, then you can start asking yourself stuff like, how does my body feel currently? Is there tension I can try to release? If I start to feel anxiety, how will I calm myself down? What emotional patterns or behaviors am I ready to face or release? Are there expectations I subconsciously set that I should release now? And how will I handle discomfort or intense emotions when they arise? You want to have a plan. And that leads me to tip number 8. You should follow the fear. When you're actually inside of the journey, you should follow the fear. You should go towards it, not run away from it. That is very important. If you see a staircase, go up it. If you see a closed door, open it. You want to go towards the trauma. I know that sounds scary, like you don't want to face your demons, but that's the point. I'm sorry. That's what you gotta do. So, when that's happening, it's gonna be so intense on your body. You're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. You won't. So have a plan. Something I like to do is a physiological sigh. It's when you go like this. You want the inhales. Sorry, I did that bad. Can you hear that? You go 2 inhales really aggressively, and then long exhale out the mouth. It kind of stimulates, like after you sob really hard, you kind of do that. And animals do this, humans do it. It's your body forcing you to calm down. That's what that is. So you can do it manually. Like we do it automatically, but subconsciously, but you can force your body to do this. You go. So when you're feeling really intense emotions during this, you can have that. You can also do just regular, like in for 4, out for 6, depending on your lung capacity. You know, you might have to adjust that. For me, I have small lungs. In for 4, out for 6 works for me. If you can do longer, in for 6, out for 8, or you know, whatever works for your body. You gotta listen to yourself. But deep breaths, usually longer exhale than inhale, is gonna help calm you down. And the last thing I have to say is it's okay to cry. You probably will cry. It is your body releasing the trauma. So if you do cry, that's actually a great thing, and it means it's working and you're releasing and you're doing what you went there to do. So prepare to cry. Maybe don't wear makeup. You're probably gonna cry it off and rub it off, and you're gonna yawn a lot, and you might just like have watery eyes too. Like you might not feel like you're crying, but your eyes will just be wet. So prepare for that. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about what happens in your body. A lot of people think it's like just visual because when we're drunk or on any other sort of drug, like even just caffeine or whatever, it's a feeling in your body, you know what I mean? When you're drunk, like you get wobbly and it's a feeling you have in your body. Psychedelics are more about your consciousness and a lot less about what's happening in your body. That being said, though, there is a lot going on in the body, but it's not going to be your main focus, so don't worry about it too much. But you might feel like tingly. Sometimes for me, when I look in the mirror, that's another thing. People say, or you might have heard, like you're not supposed to look in the mirror. I feel like that might be a myth. You kind of you notice details more. So like for me, I would notice like my acne more and just might look kind of crazy. You just might look crazy when you look in the mirror. I feel like when people say they can't look in the mirror, they like don't want to accept how they look. I might be wrong about that, but when I look in the mirror, I just notice my acne more and I just look kind of crazy and I'm like, wow, I look really crazy right now. Like, whoa. You might get stuck there. You might be like, whoa, that looks so weird. But unless you're like ashamed of the way you look, I feel like you're probably fine to look in the mirror. But anyways, for me, at the peak, I look gorgeous when I look in the mirror or in my like phone camera. And then on the way down, I start to look like I'm aging, like I'm an elderly woman. I don't know why, but that's what happens for me. Sometimes, like the first few times I ever did it, I kind of saw waves and things looked different and the trees looked like wavy. But after taking it a while, that goes away. And it's, again, not the main focus. Like what's happening in your body is not going to be what's on your mind. You're going to be thinking about deeper shit than that, right? Than just visuals or whatever. If you close your eyes, you might see little mushrooms or see like prisms, or I don't know if you ever looked in, what's that thing called, like a kaleidoscope? Is that the right thing? It might look like that, but like behind your eyelids, or yeah. But nothing too crazy goes on. Sometimes my stomach hurts, but just if your stomach hurts, it's normal. You're gonna be fine. Oh, sometimes I also feel like I have to pee a lot. And you probably do have to pee, and that's okay, just go pee. But if you try to go pee and then you can't, then it's probably a false having to pee. So just give it up and go back to your trip and try to pee again later, you know? Okay, I'm rambling. I think that's all I have to say. Just be safe, please, and have good intentions. Use this plant that the universe gave us for good and for healing purposes. Please don't use it to hurt yourself more, to run away from your problems more. You can do that if you want, but if you set good intentions, you're gonna have really good outcomes. So I encourage that, and I encourage you to be safe. And again, it's illegal, so don't do illegal shit. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor. Take everything I just said with a grain of salt. I'm obviously just a girl who really likes fungus. So happy tripping. I love you guys. Bye.